All right, let's welcome into Straight Fire, one of the biggest names in college basketball. Man, listen, we've been on a run getting great guests, and this guy has been dominant during the tournament. He was profiled in The Athletic. He's got these viral videos going on where people quiz him on who won the national championship in like 1994. Listen, I'll tell you about a game I used to play with my buddies in sixth grade, but let's welcome in John Rothstein, CBS Sports. You've seen him throughout the coverage of the tournament. John, you're dominating, man. How are you?
I'm great, Jason. Great to be with you, man.
Yeah, it's very exciting. The tournament's coming to an end here. I think a great tournament. I'm just curious,
Yeah.
macro level zoom out. I know you love it. All these chalky teams going through.
Right.
It doesn't bother you, right? You're still loving the basketball.
Well, I think the flip side, when you don't have the great Cinderella run or the great Cinderella upset, like we had a couple of years ago, maybe with Fairleigh Dickinson beating Purdue or St. Peter's beating Kentucky, the flip side of that is you have these made for TV games. And I know for working at CBS now for almost 20 years, that's what people want to see in the second weekend. You want to see the best of the best. So we may have, for the second time ever, four one seeds in the final four. But with that said, even though there isn't the element of surprise that maybe we're used to during March Madness, we have a made for TV final four. Auburn against Florida on one side, the teacher against the pupil, Bruce Pearl and Todd Golden, and then a heavyweight showdown in the other game between Houston and Duke.
I am curious. Nobody cares about brackets, but I mean, since everybody's alive in their bracket contest, because everybody had three or four number ones, how did you do in your brackets? Because listen, it's weird when you follow college hoops. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
gambling on it in November and December. You
Yeah.
feel like you know more, and then all that's out the window because it's been chalky. But how have your brackets gone?
I have three out of the four in the final four, and the fourth team that I didn't get was Michigan State, and they made the Elite Eight. So
Yeah.
for once, I don't have to burn my bracket by like the second day of the tournament. Usually it's what happens.
Yeah. All right. Let's dig in quickly to the games before we get to the portal. Let's start with Auburn, Florida, a rematch. Florida won the earlier meeting. They did it without Martin, who's been pretty damn good in the tournament. A lot of people kind of, it seems to me that the public is doubting Florida a little here because
Yeah.
they needed the rally against UConn, the rally against Texas Tech, and the public seems to be gravitating toward Auburn here. I think Florida wins this one. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I picked Florida to go to the national title game, so I'm not going to waver from that prediction. The thing that really stands out to me about Florida, and I've talked with Todd Golden about this several times the last couple weeks, is the front court depth.
Mm.
Because you look at the chemical makeup of that front court, they have four guys, Condon, Hauk, Chinyalu, and Handlogden, to log minutes against Janai Broom. There is significant more depth up front for Florida, and this is a Florida team that really has been put together with a slew of mid-major transfers operating in the backcourt. It's unique to see because, prior to the portal era, very rarely would a mid-major guard who put up big numbers at the mid-major level be able to translate directly to the power conference level. Florida has obviously proven that that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, it's strange. In the NFL, we love like Tom Brady, sixth round quarterback. Oh my gosh. Russell Wilson, mid round quarterback. College basketball has a billion of these stories. I mean, the Walter
Yeah.
Clayton, I read, I think it was Pat 40. Walter Clayton was a no star recruit who went to Iona, and
Yeah.
now he's arguably one of the best players in the country. Like that's the essence of March. These guys coming out of
Yeah.
nowhere. I'm curious, do you think Cinderella, is kind of, I don't want to say dead, but because if you're a low major player or a mid major and you have one or two good games in March, you're
Yeah.
out. All the FAU guys are gone now. They're at Michigan and so forth. I'm curious, do you think Cinderella's kind of sort of dead here?
I think it's going to be harder to keep mid-major teams together for a number of years like it was in the past. Now, with that said, we have still went through the NCAA tournament in the last couple of years and had some of the
Yeah.
biggest upsets in the history of the sport. I mean, even this year, if you really want to look at it, McNeese won the game it won against Clemson, and New Mexico beat
Mm.
Marquette, a team again that started out as a top 10 team to start the year. Now, New Mexico's a terrific team. Their point guard, Donovan Dent, has already committed to UCLA. So they obviously have great players, but there still were elements of surprise. Again, if Derek Queen misses that shot, Colorado State's in the Sweet 16.
Mm.
So we still do have some of that. But I think one of the things we're seeing is the non-power conference schools that have a chance to have obviously the necessary financial backing, like a New Mexico, like a Colorado State, like a McNeese under Will Wade, there and who's now at NC State, they're going to have a leg up when it comes to putting together a
Yeah.
roster that can be competitive.
It's interesting. All those three examples you mentioned. So Dent and New Mexico, awesome season, and then Dent's out to UCLA, kind of an upgrade.
Yeah.
Will Wade now from McNeese. I don't. Is he bringing any of his guys to Clemson or no?
We're still waiting on that. A lot, obviously, some staff members are going, but
Yes.
there's not been a slew of commitments yet for NC State, but I would expect that to change by the end of the week. And Nico Medved as
Yes.
well went to Minnesota. But this is the landscape that we're
Yeah.
in right now. It's about upgrading. And look, you and I have been in media for a long time. There's been times where we've been presented opportunities to upgrade and obviously bolster our status. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody
No.
should have that opportunity. And here's the bottom line. Players getting paid should have happened a
Right.
long, long time ago. And I think that's really ultimately really good for college basketball because now college basketball is able to retain
Mhm.
these guys for an extended period of time. That's all good for the sport. What isn't good for the sport is the volatility that comes when they can move around every single year. And that's
Yeah.
why I think if we're going to compare it to the coaches world, coaches have to pay buyouts when they want to leave a job, or somebody has to pay a buyout if they want to be transportable.
Mm-mm.
I think when we do that now, if we did that moving forward, when these players sign these NIL deals with certain schools and they would have to pay a buyout if they wanted to have freedom of movement, that might stabilize things a little bit more.
That's interesting theory. I'm trying to think if that would actually. Do you think 2 year deals is reasonable? Hey,
Yeah.
we're plucking you from Quinnipiac. We want a 2 year commitment. Like,
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm not like, somebody like Jay Billis who has the legal background can probably speak to it better than I
fair.
can, but
Yeah.
I just think that we can't like when in professional sports and have we ever seen, a professional system where everybody's a free agent every single year and there's no salary cap. It is not
Yeah.
sustainable for the long term.
That being said, in the short term, the ratings for the first two rounds were the biggest since
Great.
I believe '93, which was like
Yes.
Fab Five territory. They've kept that crew together for 2 years. Um, I haven't seen Sweet 16 ratings yet or Elite Eight. There were a few good games, not a lot of amazing ones, but I mean, how much do you think these 22, 23, 24 year olds? I think Baker Mazzara from Auburn's 25. These
25, yeah.
these older players are simply better, sorry, than 18, 19 year olds.
Well, what we were just talking about, a couple of minutes ago about the volatility off the court, everything leading up to the actual games is filled with volatility, but the games themselves are as good or better than they've been in a really, really long time for the points that you mentioned, because we have older, more experienced players right now playing the lion's share of the minutes. So the on-court product in college
Mhm.
basketball right now, as good as it's been in a long, long time. And look at what's on deck on Saturday. You have Auburn, the team, at least resume wise, that's been the best team all season, with one of the top two players in the country in Janai Broom. Then you have Florida, a team that ripped through the SEC tournament, which is the best power conference that we have seen in our lifetime with 14 bids. They are going mano a mano in the Final Four. Then you have Duke, the most talented roster in the sport, number one player in the draft in Cooper Flagg, a loaded roster, and it's Duke. It's obviously the blue blood program
Yeah.
that's synonymous with college basketball, going up against Houston, 2.5 hours away from its campus. And Houston has been a program under Kelvin Sampson again that has been in a situation where it has usurped Kansas and Baylor as the flagship program in the Big 12 in 2 years. In 2 years, Jason, against Big 12 competition, Kelvin Sampson and Houston are 39-5.
Wow. Yeah. That's interesting. You mentioned Kansas. I saw
Yeah.
your write up about how Bill Self has a bit like a whole new roster. And a lot of these jabronis on social media are like, Jason, it was so much better when I could track Paul Pierce for 3 years at Kansas
Right.
and all Mike Bibby and all these guys. And I get that. I totally get that. But you know what? Like, you got to just change with the times. Like, things have been changing for years. And like, what are you going to dump college basketball now because guys are jumping around? I don't know. I think you just have to accept it for what it is. No.
I agree with you. And again, you're going to adapt or you're going to die. That's the bottom line when it comes to college basketball right now. And, I know there's a lot of coaches that are frustrated with it, but until the guardrails are put on where we have a little bit more stability, this is the way things are going to be moving forward in the sport. And, every week, like I rank 45 teams. I rank the top 25, which I submit to the AP, and then another 25. the most difficult thing for anybody to do who covers the sport going into the next season is finding 45 teams because the rosters are so in flux. It's going to change daily. It might change hourly, but it is something that you have to be nimble with because everything is changing.
Yeah, it's like John, think about it. Since I don't know if you're a big chat GPT guy, and I was slow to adapt, but within the last 6 months, my Google searches have to be down like 90%. It's like I don't want to put
Mhm.
in a Google search, look for the right link. I'm just chat GPTing like everything. Hey, I want these pants. What's the best
Yeah.
place to get them? Boom. You get the answer quicker. So you got to adapt and like, sure, I miss Google, but like that's just where we are now. Now, let me ask you, there's a freshman at Auburn. I know we've been talking about the older guys. Mr. Pettiford. I absolutely love his game. I think he's a pro. I think he probably could leave this year, but he might stay. I'm curious, does he play enough defense to hang with Clayton? How do you think Auburn is able to contain arguably the best guard left in the tournament?
Well, I think Tahad Pettiford is filling the role of what we've seen the last couple of years in terms of having a dominant scoring option off the bench. And Jason, if you look at prerequisites for scorers off the bench associated with national championships teams, it has been a common thread for a long time. 2021, Baylor had Adam Flagler.
That's right.
2022, Kansas, remember, had Remy Martin. 2023, UConn had Joey Calcaterra. And then
Mhm.
obviously UConn went to the bench and had the players that it had last year under Dan Hurley on one of the great teams that we saw, really, in our lifetime. So that has been something common, and Tahad Pettiford is filling that void. I know you and I have went back and forth on X over the years about my player comparisons. He reminds me a lot of Salim Stoudemire, who was at
That's not
Arizona
bad.
20 years ago under Lute Olson, 6'1" lefty who had a quick twitch, like just an instant offense type guy. So
That's
I think
good.
this is one of the players that, we're going to look at this weekend and see as somebody who could change the game against Florida.
Interesting. That's Stoudemire's a good one. I was thinking more like Jeff Teague, who wasn't a righty but super
Yeah.
shifty, great ball handler, kind of cocky. I don't know, but does Pettiford defend enough? Because this could be one of those games where it's like, no, if he's able to force Clayton into a 4 for 15 game, boom, he's a lottery pick. I know the kid
Yeah.
fears at Oklahoma. People like him
Yes.
more than Pettiford. Where are you on those two freshmen?
Well, I think Jeremiah Fears is obviously projected to be higher in the lottery. I try not to look too much at the draft until we get through the tournament because I don't want to take
Fair.
away obviously things for the
Yeah.
tournament. But obviously Fears was an impressive freshman, and Pettiford's playing on a team and is playing with one of the top two players in the sport. But the game that really got me with Tahad Pettiford was that game against Houston, the first Saturday of the regular season at the Toyota Center. It felt like a March game. And Pettiford was the one that made big play after big play. It was his second college game. And this guy, you could tell, was just made for the big stage. I think what's awesome about this Final Four is, we want to see, especially on the Saturday where we have the doubleheader, the best players play. And if you think about it, Broom, Clayton, Flagg, universally first team All-Americans, and they're all playing in the Final Four. And then obviously there's Knipple, there's Malawach, who has been great in the
Oh yeah.
NCAA tournament. And Houston, I think, is obviously more the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. LJ Cryer was obviously an All-American as well, but we have star power in this Final Four. We have blue blood caliber brands with Duke and with Florida. Florida, obviously, won multiple national championships under Billy Donovan. But how about this? In the last 31 years, three different coaches have taken Florida to a Final Four. Todd Golden, Billy Donovan, Lon Kruger.
Wow. Yeah, he's good. You got the stats. All right, let's quickly go to Houston. I think Kelvin Sampson might be double the age of John Shire. So I thought Sampson maybe called the best individual play of the tournament, the inbounds play to beat
Yeah.
Purdue. I thought that was phenomenal. I'm looking for an edge for Houston. I think they have a slight edge in the backcourt, but I like Duke in this game, but I do think Sampson could throw a wrinkle at him. For instance, they have three guards that start. They're all like 6'3". I don't know that you can start three guards against Duke with this
Right.
incredible size and length up front. Your thoughts?
Well, let's look at a couple of, anecdotes from Kelvin Sampson the last couple of years and why he might be so prone to obviously be in a position, I think, to win this basketball game. I picked Houston to win the national title.
Ooh.
Kelvin Sampson does not always need the best players and the best talent to win. Let's rewind the clock back to 2022. He's the head coach at Houston. They lose Marcus Sasser and Tremont Mark to season-ending injuries. Houston then goes into the NCAA tournament beats Illinois in the round of 32 with Kofi Cockburn. Then in the Sweet 16, beats Arizona, the one seed that had Christian Coloco, Dalen Terry, and Ben Matherin,
Oh, I
and
love
lost to
that.
Villanova and Colin Gillespie and Jay Wright, which was Jay Wright's last victory at Villanova in the Elite Eight. And then remember last year, Houston had a lead on Duke
I know.
in the Sweet 16 before Jamal Shed twisted his ankle and sprained his ankle. And all of a sudden, Duke obviously came back to win that game. So this is a little bit like phase two between these two programs. It's a little bit of the feeling I had in like 2015 when Wisconsin was playing Kentucky for a second time in the Final Four. There are certain times in college basketball where everything aligns to give you the epic matchup in the second game of the Final Four. We had it in 91 when Duke beat UNLV. We had it in 92, obviously,
No
when
doubt.
Indiana played Duke. We had it in 2004 when UConn played Duke, when Emeka Okafor hit that layup in the closing seconds. We have that on Saturday night. I
Mhm.
understand why people say, like, well, we don't have the Steph Curry run for Davidson. We don't have the Gonzaga run of 99. I get that. But what we have is as appetizing a Final Four as we've had in a long time.
I will say, it sounds like you like Houston in this, and I get it. I think Ken Pom has it as a 2 point game. Bart Torvik, another site that does analytics,
Yeah.
has Houston by one, which surprised me. I will say, John, you have to admit, if Duke somehow loses, I think that's a bit of a ding to the national title game. I know you, the purists, and everybody will still like Houston and watch it, but I think the masses would kind of want to see Cooper Flag in the title game. You'd agree, right?
I understand what you're saying from the periphery. I get it. You know, it's probably comparable to this. Remember in 2015, if Kentucky played Duke in the national title game, Kentucky would have been going for 40 and 0, and
That's
it
right,
would have been
undefeated.
Kentucky Duke
Yeah.
in the national title game, and it was Duke Wisconsin.
Yep.
I understand what you're saying. For people from the periphery to bring in eyeballs on Monday night,
Casuals. Yeah.
people might say Duke Auburn or Duke Florida would be box office. But if you follow college basketball, you have an appreciation for
Yeah.
Houston. And Houston has been at bat year after year after year. This is the third season in a row that the Cougars have been a one seed in the NCAA tournament. Jason, how about this? Since Kelvin Sampson was hired at Houston, the Cougars are 18-6 in the NCAA tournament and have advanced to the second weekend every
Nice.
season
It's
since
great.
2018. The last time Houston didn't advance to the second weekend was 2018 when Jordan Poole made that miracle shot for Michigan in
Yes.
the round of 32.
Jordan Poole, my guy. All right, quickly. Cooper Flag or Zion Williamson, who had a better freshman year at Duke? There's a heated discussion in some text threads I'm in. And I did, by the way, ask ChatGPT, which claims it's a toss-up, essentially.
Yeah. I will go with Zion Williamson because
Oh,
of the caliber of the ACC. The ACC that year had three number one seeds in the NCAA tournament: Duke, Carolina, and Virginia.
wow. I gotta say, I'm surprised. Because Cooper Flag better, I would say defensively. Cooper
Yeah, I
Flag
mean
better passer.
Zion Williamson was like a phenomenon. It was
He
like when the
was, yeah.
NWO came to Monday Nitro in the mid 90s.
I still remember the loss to Michigan State. That pissed me off because I had Duke. But I also had Houston last year when Shed turned the ankle, which hurt. So I'm guessing you're going Houston versus Florida for the national championship.
Look, that's what I said at the start of the tournament, so I don't want to waver from that. I'm sticking with
You
my
can
original
waver.
picks because no, I'm not going to waver. I'm sticking with my original picks.
Okay.
I said Houston over Florida in the title game, so I'm sticking with Houston over Florida. But look, I think any way you slice it, we're going to have three awesome games in San Antonio. San Antonio is an awesome city for the Final Four. I'm really looking forward to getting down there tomorrow, and obviously we're going to have some great coverage on CBS all weekend. And I think, very rarely do you get a scenario where like the combinations can happen anyway, and you know you're going to get a great title game. Like last year going in, everybody wanted to see UConn play Purdue. Everybody wanted to see Edey against Klingon.
Oh
This year,
yeah.
I think any combination will be a great combination.
I am curious. When you look at John Shire and kind of what he's accomplished already, we got people instantly calling him the next Coach K. I think it's a little premature.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on how he's done, or is it just that he's got a stacked team with the best player in, I don't know, the best freshman in maybe the last 5 years in college basketball? I don't know.
He has a stacked team, but think about other instances in history where it's been very difficult to follow a legend. John Shire has made it look seamless. John Shire has led Duke right now to 3 seasons in a row with at least 27 wins. John Shire has also been in a situation where he has now tied the record for most wins by a head coach in their first 3 seasons on the job. The other two coaches that he's sharing that mark with, which is now 89 victories, is Brad Stevens at Butler and Brad Underwood at Stephen F. Austin. So he has made it look seamless in terms of the succession plan from Mike Krzyzewski to John Shire.
Wow, that's interesting. I am curious. You mentioned the Houston thing. I forgot about that. Slight home court advantage. Do you think the crowd will be pro Houston, or I
There
mean,
will be a lot of
Duke?
red. There will be a lot of red. Now, Duke always travels,
Yeah,
but
they
there will
do.
be a lot of red in San Antonio.
Okay, so John, we can wrap up with this. So when I was in sixth grade, me and my buddy, we would play this game, because we didn't pay attention in class, where we would name an NBA player, and then you would have to say where he went to college, and we would try to
Yeah,
like trick each other. We were in Northern Virginia, so a lot of Georgetown and Maryland.
yeah.
Do you mind if I throw a couple names at you? I'm not
Go
trying to
ahead.
trick you, but it's fun, and I'm sure if you countered, I would fail on some. So we'll start with an easy one. He had an awesome NBA career. Jamal Crawford. Where did he
Michigan,
play at college? Yeah, see that we'll start with a layup. All right, we'll go with another probably quasi easy one. Michael Finley.
Wisconsin,
Thought I could get you because he's an Illinois guy. Um, let's go with Allen Houston.
Tennessee.
Yeah, I can't trick you with a New York Nick. Now we'll go with a little obscure. Okay, this is probably going to upset some people that I'm asking you, but he's been a power forward in the league long run. Paul Millsap.
Louisiana Tech.
Oh, we got it pretty quickly. Yes,
Yeah.
impressive. Because I know you're a huge, obviously, basketball fan, and you know all these guys. I can't ask you like Baron Davis.
That
That
was
would be
UCLA.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too easy. Let's go with a guy. They had an awesome backcourt. Sam Cassell.
Florida State, him and Bob Sura.
Yes. Oh boy, see, this guy knows his stuff. A little slightly off the radar, could be tricky. Chauncey Billups.
Colorado.
Nothing could get this guy. I don't know if this one's totally fair. Actually, I'll ask it. Sir Valiant Brown. I don't even know if he made the NBA, but his great name, and you might know it.
Mr. Valiant Brown. It sounds like a manager for professional wrestling.
It kind of sort of does. Um, he was one of the leading scorers in the country. He was a little point guard. He was just a bucket.
Mr. Valiant Brown. No.
George Washington. The
Okay.
Colonials, too obscure. They didn't make the league, so that's not totally fair. Marcus Pfizer, easy one for you.
Iowa State.
Yeah. Vin Baker.
Hartford.
Ooh. Yes, anybody in the Northeast you're really good at. Does the name Terry DeHare ring a bell? Of course it does.
Sure. Seton Hall.
Yeah.
93. They lost to Ralph Willard in Western Kentucky in the round of 32. The point guard on that Seton Hall team, Danny Hurley.
So this is probably the nerdiest thing that I admit. My wife makes fun of me constantly, but when One Shining Moment would play, I would record it, John, so I
Yeah.
could watch it later. Now this was pre-YouTube, like 2005, very
Yeah.
nerdy, losery stuff. But that's how I'll go back and watch like the early 90s March One Shining Moments.
Yeah.
I mean, those are some like I get goosebumps still watching that because I'm such a hoops nerd. I am just curious, where are you on One Shining Moment? Will you like hum it to yourself? Does the wife make fun of you? Do you find yourself
I
odd for
mean, my
loving that
my
song?
wife, my wife is, the person in the world that just humbles me every single day. Like you feel like obviously, you're getting great assignments, you're working the NCAA tournament. I did a number of NCAA tournament games the first week of the tournament. My wife went skiing. So, that's probably
Yeah.
why our relationship works. She tells me, she's like, it's great that you love your job, but you're not that important.
Yeah. So my son's birthday is in the middle of March Madness almost every year. And I tell the wife, I'm like, listen, this is just a tough one for me. I can't miss the tournament. So we usually try to do the birthday early in the day, that
Yeah.
Saturday when the second round starts.
Yeah.
Or I convince him to push it to after the tournament, and we could do a bigger birthday.
Yes.
Just give me some
College
give me some-
basketball is greater than being social. It's better than being social.
And I know you put all these tweets out that people love. You're now are you making money on these t-shirts that you're doing? You don't have to be.
I no,
tell me
no, the
number.
proceeds go to a charity. Mission Continues, a charity that helps our veterans when they return from war.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
awesome,
a
man.
portion of the proceeds goes to that. Yeah.
That is really cool, man. Congrats on that. John
Thanks.
Rothstein, CBS. He knows everything. He's going to be at the Final Four. Let's wrap up lastly with the portal. Obviously, you're going to be down there working the hotel
Yeah.
lobby. Have you heard the latest about this Mara situation at UCLA? Not to get too granular, but they're out here in our backyard.
Yeah, I mean, this is a situation that I think, when Adimara went to Spain, I think things, changed, but it was a quick, decision from what I understand when he came back. And now this is life in the transfer portal. UCLA got the best point guard in the country and maybe an All-American next year, and they lose, obviously, their starting center. I mean, I think there's a pretty good nucleus in place, Jason, for UCLA because if you think about it, you have Donovan Dent, Sky Clark, and Trent Perry back, and you're going to have Eric Daly and Tyler Bilodeau back, but UCLA needs to add a starting caliber front court guy, and now I think also needs to add another scoring wing.
Yeah.
So I thought UCLA with the Daimara back was a consensus top 7, 8, 9, 10 team to start
Oh
next
my.
season. And then without him now, they're probably somewhere in the top 25.
Yeah, I don't want to hammer the kid, but I have heard he would take himself out of games because he wasn't in great shape. And I don't, I'm not as high on him as others. Let me, last question, John. We haven't had, I believe, a national champion west of the Mississippi in like 25 years, something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
Um, all signs point to BYU being absolutely loaded next year. They get the best player in
Yeah.
the country in AJ. Have you heard whether or not the point guard is coming back? The 6'9" kid who I'm spacing on his name.
Coming back? Oh, you mean
Is he?
Yegor Demin?
Yes, yes.
No word yet. I know he's forecasted as a high pick in the draft. No word on that yet,
Mm,
on who if he's coming back or
yeah,
staying. But I will say this: even without Yegor Demin, who I'm
that's
forecasting to go,
oh
I think with the potential of AJ DeBanza coming in and the pieces that should return for BYU, BYU is in position to be a top 10 team to start next season without question, without Yegor Demin coming back.
no, you're on the trail like the Adidas camp and all that fun stuff. I've only seen some videos of AJ. What are we talking here? Like, do you have like an
I
NBA
mean,
comp?
he is going to be in the conversation to be, one of the top picks in the 2026 NBA
Mhm.
draft. But I also am somebody who doesn't get all that caught up in what somebody is forecasted to be in the NBA when
Yeah,
it comes to college basketball. Because think about this. Anthony Edwards' team didn't make the NCAA tournament.
that's right.
Ben Simmons' team didn't make the NCAA tournament. Markel Fultz's team didn't make the NCAA tournament. These are
Oh,
all
Washington.
guys who again were number one picks in the draft. And Jason, look, you know me, I'm a college guy through and through. I sometimes get annoyed because that conversation sometimes usurps what's going on in the actual sport. We'll deal with the NBA draft, or the experts will deal with the NBA draft after the season is
Mm.
over. But college basketball is not the NBA. I mean, look at Houston's team, for example. There's a couple of guys who obviously might be able to play at the next level, but that is a team of really, really good college players who's been exceptionally well coached that, again, has superseded everybody that's been put in its path.
Yeah, no, that's a good point because how you build your team is fascinating. Do you want to just load up on one and dones or maybe
Yeah.
two and dones,
I
or do
mean,
you want to get a bunch of program guys?
I mean, like you were talking about, like, you live in obviously, California, and you obviously are paying close attention to what's happening at UCLA. I mean, Amari Bailey, Peyton Watson, these guys were all one and done players, but they weren't good enough in college to be better than Jalen Clark, than Jaime Jaquez.
Mm.
I mean, this is all just the way it goes.
Yeah, where in Europe right now is Amari Bailey playing? I know he ain't in
I
the
don't know.
NBA.
But I remember he was like a two-way guy for a while. But like again, and everybody's entitled to do whatever they want to do. But if that guy stayed in college for NIL, he'd be one of the best players in the country right now.
100%. Now, listen, I'm not speaking out of pocket here. Mick Cronin was on the herd last week, and we're talking off air, and I'm not going to mention it, but he had a player leave early, and then he ran into him. And let's just say the player was kind of wishing he had stayed in college. I'm sure
Well,
you talked to
Jason,
Mick. He can tell you the story.
yeah, no, Jason. Here's the thing too, because these guys can get paid right now,
Yeah.
and because the forum is what it is, it's better to be in college basketball. And I'm not just saying this because I cover college basketball every single day for a living. It's what I do. Because you can finally get paid and you have the forum of playing on CBS, playing on TNT, playing on ESPN. You don't need to go to Europe or go to the G League anymore or go to the NBA on a smaller contract. You can make hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars playing in college basketball.
And by the way, this goes to the D2 and 3 guys because what's it? Duncan Robinson with the big leap to
Yep.
Michigan. Now he's in the NBA making big bucks. Dalton Connect from what, Northern Arizona or some obscure place to Tennessee, player of the year in the SEC. Like it can happen. What's his name? Sturts, who's going to Iowa. That's one of the best stories in college basketball. How good are they going to be next year?
I mean, we got to wait and see what the roster looks like. That's the thing. It's going to take time. It's Portal Combat. It is
Yeah.
Portal Combat every single day. Again, I have an idea of what rosters are going to look like, but I'm going to be sending into my editors at FanDuel every single day for changing the Rothstein 45. We already talked about it. We said, Johnny, we can only publish this once a day. You have
Yeah.
to send in your changes every day, but it's awesome. It keeps the offseason relevant. And this is one thing, and this is the best way to sum it up. We are not going to see programs anymore in college basketball. You are building a team
Mm.
year to year, and that's the way you have to approach it. Again, I think we've had some really interesting things already happen in the portal. Bryce Hopkins going to St. John's. He and
Saw that.
Zuby Ejiofor, I think, will form one of the best 4 or 5 combinations in the country next year as long as he's healthy. Donovan Dent going to UCLA. I felt for years, and I don't want to disparage anybody that's been playing this position. But until UCLA got Donovan Dent and hadn't adequately replaced Tiger Campbell from a
Oh,
couple of
love
years
that guy.
ago. Love Tiger Campbell. So
Yeah.
now all of a sudden, and again, UCLA is going to get a really good post player, and I think they're going to get, a good wing as well. But if you add those two things, UCLA, even without a Dimara, should be really, really good. And here's the thing, too. We love talking about the posts, the edits, the videos, the announcements, because it's what's obviously hot in April and May. I'm going to leave you with this. 29 players from the 4 Final Four teams played in the Elite Eight last week, double-figure minutes.
Okay.
20 were in the program the year prior, 4 were
Mm.
freshmen, and only 5 were first-year transfers. Retention still matters.
Yeah.
So even though we want to talk about the portal, who's going where, it is far more important to retain the players that are in your current program.
Yeah, no, that's huge. Final last question for real this time. So you mentioned FanDuel, and I just remember I saw earlier, and I wrote this up for Fox. Cooper Flagg, you can get plus money on him to score 20 or more points against Houston. I like that bet, but Houston has tough interior D. I just remember what the kid Ike, I think it's Graham Ike
Graham
or
Ike,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he destroyed them inside, and there's
Right.
no front court depth at Houston. I can see Cooper Flagg easily topping 20. And also, there is the idea that Samson could treat Flagg like Jokic. Hey, we're going to let him get whatever. We're not going to let Proctor hit 5 threes. We're not going to let
Right.
James hit 3 threes. We're not going to let Knipple go crazy. It's almost like, hey, we'll let Cooper Flagg get his, but we don't want the other guys to get theirs. Your thoughts on Cooper Flagg, 20 or more points?
The bottom line is this is just the chess match is going to be fascinating. It's one of those great Final Four games that again you get every couple of years that it feels like Houston Duke is going to be like the build up to Holyfield and Tyson.
Oh, boy. All right. John Rothstein, CBS. Thanks a lot, John. Enjoy San Antonio, my man.
Thanks for having me, Jay.